I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Tiverton Town Council, Monday, May 13th. We'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Gerlach.
Present.
Councilor Ruda.
Present.
Councilor Shabbat.
Present.
Councilor Lambert.
Present.
Councilor Roderick.
Present.
Councilor DiMederos.
Present.
Councilor Pelletier.
Yes, ma'am.
All.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. Beginning with approval of minutes of the regular council meeting, April 22nd, 2013, executive session not held. Approval of special meeting joint workshop minutes of the council meeting, April 29, 2013. Approval of executive session minutes of March 25, 2013. Receipts of minutes from the following boards and commissions: Cemetery Commission, Conservation Commission, Art Council, Board of Canvassers, Police Pension Board of Trustees, 2, Planning Board, Recreation Committee. Correspondence received and for filing: Charleston Town Council, resolution opposing contract continuation legislation. Middleton Town Council, resolution supporting Senate Bill 209, changing the composition of the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority, and Senate Bill number 242, establishing a bridge maintenance fund. Sally Black, Tiverton School Committee Chairperson, letter regarding school committee vote to oppose House Bill H5340 regarding binding arbitration. Bernie Hicks, Adoption Rhode Island, letter requesting support for fundraiser. Barbara Pelletier, report of March 19, 2013, Newport and Bristol County Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors meeting. Town of North Smithfield, resolution relative to bus monitors. Town of Exeter, resolution opposing legislation relating to agriculture and forestry, renewable energy facilities. Treasurer Denise Salt, April budget and revenue reports. Kate Michaud, Planning Administrator Officer, April 2013 activities report and distribution of timing is everything from Rhode Island statewide planning relative to the comp plan. Jane Biddow, Evelyn's Restaurant, requesting scheduling a public hearing on June 24th, 2013 for sound variance for event Singing Out Against Hunger to take place on September 13th, 14th, and 15th. Coastal Roasters, request scheduling a public hearing on June 24th, 2013 for sound variance for event Singing Out Against Hunger to take place on September 14th and 15th. Leroy Kendricks, Wastewater Management, request scheduling and advertising a public input hearing on May 28th, 2013 on wastewater facilities plan update. Kathleen Thibault, Healthy Haven, 80 Main Road, request amendment to sign ordinance to allow additional signage for business referred to the Planning Board. Harbor and Coastal Waters Management Commission, responses to the CRMC notices. Council, is there anything that you wish to remove?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Oh.
Sorry.
Could you please remove A8, the scheduling of the May 28th public hearing on wastewater?
Okay, removing A8.
I'm sorry.
Make your motion again.
I'll move again for approval of the consent agenda with the exception of CA8, which is removed by Mrs. Mello.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Mrs. Mello?
Yes. I attended one of these meetings that the wastewater management has been putting on for different districts. The one I attended had 90 people at it. The one the week before had 70, and the Bay Street area had 50 people. So there is no way that we're going to be able to handle that during a meeting. Mr. Kendrick was in agreement that night and wanted me to schedule a special at the high school. But I'm not going to be able to do that until I can obtain when the council would be willing to do a special meeting. What you can do, if you can come up with some ideas, I could just email it to you, and if you want to, Ed, if you want to kind of,
Yeah.
we'll stay in contact with
we'll-
emails, set a date.
Okay, we'll set a date. All right, so then, for this point in time, then I will accept a motion to table CA8.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. Open public forum for announcements, comments, and questions. Mrs. Pelletier.
Hi, good evening. I have 3 topics to cover. So the first, very, very quick. I noticed when reading the agenda that Mr. Aruda has put on the agenda the revisiting the dog walking at the town farm, and I must assuredly want to reassure you that Placing Paws would put up a poop station and pay for the pickup. We do about $100 every month now that we have a bill for the pickup of the 5 stations that we have, so we would absorb that most happily, because it's the trend that you can walk your dogs that when you exercise, and provided, I think people do it responsibly. I don't see why the people in Tiverton just can't learn how to do that also. Which also gives me the opening for the dog park. I got in touch with the Department of Transportation because I heard that they were going to maybe do a little repair work at the commuter lot. Is this thing on?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I said, well, gee, that would be a great location for a dog park if the town decides to, and I think they were sort of on the track of maybe doing that. And they asked that the town formally submit a request, and they would be most happy to look at it, but it has to come through you guys and Mr. Gonzalo. I couldn't just do it on my own. So thinking about that, I actually asked Kate for a site plan for the area, and she's going to give it to me, and we can maybe all look at it and get going before they forget about their nice little promise that we might get a freebie out of it. And the third thing is the longest point. Last Wednesday, I attended a luncheon at the Unity Luncheon and Travel Exchange, which is part of the Department of Economic Development for the state of Rhode Island, and was very, very interesting to hear the economic development talk about what a really driving force tourism in the state is. And they had just completed a visit to China, where most of your future tourism will come from. They have money, they can travel, they haven't traveled. And Rhode Island is one of those fortunate states that has everything they want. We have fresh seafood, which they absolutely love. We have greenery, we have water, which they want. And we have all of these wonderful components, including history, which they're absolutely eager for, because if you remember during the cultural thing there in Mao, they sort of wiped out their own history, and now they'll tag on to anybody's history, and we have it. We've got Indians, we've got everything. So I think we should keep that in mind when we think about whom we could have coming into town, giving us meals tax, giving us hotel tax, and for some reason or other, some good fairy has proposed to put in a development, the Carpionado Corporation. So isn't it sort of very, very good fortune that we might even have an opportunity, if we welcome them, do it right, and be very happy that they've done their study, they are willing to come here. It's not going to cost us anything, from what I understand. They wish to build a hotel where we can collect the taxes. In the meantime, before we do that, it's going to create jobs. It's going to set the bar in Tiverton a little higher than we have. Any big corporation that's done something properly, and they have, the things in Providence are wonderful, they know how to do it. They're going to show everybody else a little oomph, and competition is great. I think it's absolutely great for free enterprise. It's like, you clean up your house before company comes. It's the same kind of thing. And why not? I mean, it's human nature. So let's welcome them. Let's be open-minded. I think it'll create an awful lot of job opportunities, and people will get off their "we can't do it" attitude and just do something. It'll create taxes, and there are so many places for sale now. So many people that can't afford to pay their taxes are just holding on by the skin of their teeth, and I think some of that might be taken care of if we just let things happen to the best of us. And as far as I can see, the 60-odd acres in the middle of town on the highway isn't going to take any great vistas. It's a small portion percentage-wise of this whole town. And how many people, I mean, how often do you stop by 24 to look at the view of the rock? I mean, nobody's going to miss that. There's a shopping center there, so I'm just thinking that we should sort of maybe toss our barn boots and toss the Crocs and slip into some loafers and get going. And by the way, this is going to be printed this week, our first travel brochure. It took forever. It was like a 9-month project, like a pregnancy, except I don't have to go afoot.
Thank you, Mrs. Pelletier. Mr. Odell.
Good evening, Jim Odell, Warren Avenue. I'd just like to caution you folks about the report on the pump-out boat. To build a V8 engine, two engines actually, because they are tandem V8s, is going to cost significantly more than $3,000. And my understanding is that we were gonna possibly get the boat, sit on it for a year because the budget committee didn't support it, and possibly look at it again next year. This was based on a boat that was ready to go. To build two V8 engines over again and the miscellaneous other things on the list of repairs that are needed, that's going to be more like $10,000 by the time it's done. I guarantee it. I'm not guessing. I just wanted to just make you folks aware of that. Secondly, in the news this week, I heard about the lawsuit for the Secana Bridge. And just my 2 cents, I'd like to urge the town of Tiverton to get involved in that. I think it would carry a lot more weight if more communities got involved, spread the wealth, and we could maybe get a good result. I don't think people realize how much this is going to actually hurt the area if this toll goes in. I know personally myself, it's going to cost several $1,000s a year. As a contractor with a commercial vehicle, I will be paying $4 each way every time I cross that bridge, and sometimes I cross it 3 times a day. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Okay, public hearings and public presentations. New one, Linda Larson, Tiverton First, Tiverton Education Foundation, Celebrate Tiverton, presentation. Feel lonely, Linda?
Thank you, Phil. He's coming.
He's coming.
You shaved him into it.
As long as you do the talking.
I've been told I can do that.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Well, first, thank you. Thank you for hearing what we have to say and the information on our proposal. I'm Linda Larson. I'm one of the coordinating members from Tiverton First. This is Phil Schuyler, my semi-silent partner. I think he's also one of our committee members. We've submitted a proposal to you to hold a 3-day town event called Celebrate Tiverton to be held July 26th, 27th, 28th. The entire event is going to be sponsored overall over the big umbrella by Tiverton First, and I just want to make it clear that it's Tiverton First, F-I-R-S-T, and we are a filed nonprofit organization focused on community and education and charitable events. So here's a copy of our filing, which is not included in your packet, but I'd just like to attach it to the minutes in case there was any questions.
Mrs. Mello?
As you can see from the documents attached, this is certainly a work in progress because of the time commitment and what we had to work with and get information into your packets and on the agenda. I do apologize for some of the drafts and the artistic ability or inability, I guess I should say, of the gazebo and whatnot. So this is very much a work in progress as we work with yourselves, soon to work with the Recreation Department as well as the two chiefs. The other thing I want to point out, there are 2 events scheduled in the draft. However, we still need to meet and discuss these with the Recreation Commission. We are on their agenda for May 21st. They are in the draft, but due to the timing of meetings, we needed to get here first, and we are scheduled and slated, so we're not bypassing the Rec Committee. We do understand the process and the importance of that. So if you could just go to the draft, and we'll kind of go over the events, and if you have questions, or if you want to come to the, save them to the end, that's fine. The celebration will start on Friday, July 26th, and we'll be kicking off with music on Middle, so we'll be having music at the gazebo on Middle Ave. It's not a band, it's a couple acoustic guitarists. There's 4 lined up right now, 2 will play at a time. We're talking James Taylor folk kind of music, nothing wild, very small to limited amplification, which would be well under the decibel level per the town ordinance. We filed a permit, and that's been submitted to Ms. Mello, and we've also provided you with a rendering of Middle Ave as it's not a yurt, it's an actual gazebo. We've worked with the police chief to block off the roads, so the road would be blocked off. Music would play 5:30 to 7:15, 7:30 give or take. You'll notice the tables at the bottom towards Main Road for food and drink. We have not gone to our local businesses yet. If they want to, have a peddler's license or apply and come and provide something, we wouldn't be making any money. It's if available, if they want to do that. If not, they can just have a Celebrate Tiverton special at their local businesses. So that's pending approval and discussion here.
Just a comment on the music at the gazebo. It's been a tradition, which has been lost a little bit in the last couple of years, to have music there. We've had Navy bands there, we've had different kinds of musical groups at various times. The neighborhood has changed somewhat in terms of who lives where. I back up onto that, know the people there. Some of our older citizens have now passed away, there's new couples there. But generally speaking, the neighborhood understands this kind of thing, music, celebration. In fact, normally we run a long extension cord out of somebody's window, goes across the road and into the gazebo to help with the amplification on loudspeakers and so forth, or whatever we need. So this is, the general concept is not at all new, and generally the neighborhood is prepared to welcome it.
Okay. We would then expect the public to walk down to Main Road, head off to Grinnell's Beach, down to the sidewalk area there, where they could view the Tiverton Yacht Club will be sponsoring a flotilla of lights. So the boats will be leaving the yacht club all lit. They will come down through by Grinnell's out to that Nanaquacket Point area, turn around and come back. Our hope, and it is tentative, we have not met with the Rec Commission, would be to have a bonfire on the beach. We have met with Chief Lloyd, obviously working with him and his concerns with wind and chasing embers and things like that. But we will meet with them on the 21st to discuss the potential of possibility of having a bonfire. We will all then wake up next morning, very early, and our hope would be to have a parade down Main Road, starting at 10 to 12. We've applied with the state, and we've provided the state with all the necessary information, and Chief Blakely has signed and supported the parade because it is on a state road. This parade will be sponsored by the Tiverton Education Foundation. We're working with different groups throughout the community to get them involved in all of our events. The staging areas that you see, and again, I apologize for the crisscrosses because this is very much a work in progress as we work with the chief. The staging areas would be the back of where the old Ponta was, to the VFW parking lot, to maybe the Picasset parking lot. It would then, the parade would come up Judson Street, Once it was staged, it would come up Judson Street, it would turn left down Main, it would head down Main and end around the Little Bear area with that access road behind the back and parking. And again, we'll continue to work with the chief for ensuring the safety of participants as well as spectators. Following, also with the parade, there will be a participant application that will be available. So anyone who is going to march in the parade will need to complete that, return it, and the TEF as well as the Tiverton First Board will approve and, and make sure that all of our participants have all the information that they need. We will.
Linda, will that form be out so that people will know where to get it?
The form is available now. However, we've talked to people cursory, but it'll be available. We do have a website. It's called CelebrateTiverton.org. The form will be available. We will also be mailing them out to everyone on our list, from local organizations to businesses to nonprofits to, the schools to, dignitaries, so forth and so on. So we'll be mailing it out as well. And we could also leave a copy here in the town hall if someone wanted to come and pick it up.
Thank you.
In the evening, we're looking at having a summer cookout at Sandy Woods. The group over there at Sandy Woods will be sponsoring that entire evening on Saturday night. There'll be a children's show, food truck. Sandy Woods, with their events, they have all the proper permits in place for the music, and you can see that there'll be a Cajun music and dancing, following the children and family event. If we're all still around on Sunday, we'll be waking up bright and early, and we'll be heading over to the high school. The Tiverton Education Foundation, as well as the Tiverton High School Athletic Department, will be sponsoring a 5K. Parking and registration will all happen in the Tiverton High School parking lot. When you use town roads, or they're not state roads, I guess the town does not have a permit to complete. So in your packet, I've attached a letter from the chief with his recommendation. Obviously, his concerns are the safety of all, but also the neighborhood, as well as, any trash and so forth. It looks like we're finalizing the course route now. A lot of the runners want to do some off-road running, so it looks like it may go around the fields of the high school, up behind Ranger in the back there. So there'll be really limited access of runners on the road or any impact to the neighborhood. And the Tiverton High School football team, following the run, will then go out for their run on trash pickup and detail with the athletic director and football coach behind him in his truck with, from what I understand, his flashers on.
Loudspeaker.
Yeah, loudspeaker. There will be a porta potty available, as well as the school will be open, so there'll be facilities for the runners as well. Very tentative, and we're still waiting to hear back. The kayak cruise at Grinnell's Beach, we're looking for a vendor to sponsor that, and what it would just be demonstrating some kayaks going along the water's edge. Someone would be in the water with them. Again, that's pending approval and discussion with the rec department. That may or may not happen, but that's still up in the air. There's no rain date that's been planned. The information will be provided on our website with any kind of maps, information, schedule, as well as any cancellations. Event insurance, we're in the process of obtaining event insurance with a special events policy through a surplus lines carrier. We're also out there looking for donations as well as sponsors, to be brought forth to cover the cost of police detail. We have a plan in place following, if all of this goes forward, to meet sometime the beginning of September, not only with the group, but also with the chiefs and anyone else involved, to discuss any lessons learned, any concerns, any improvements that we can make. The schedule events will not be anything greater than what's been presented. There's been a ton of ideas out there, everything from a carnival to fireworks to big name bands but at this time, we'd love to see an art show and those kinds of things, but with limited resources, funding right now, this is where we're starting, and it's our starting point. We hope to grow and this, to continue to be a yearly event for our community.
Very nice.
Thank you. Anything from the council?
Good. If there's no comments, I'll move that we adopt the Celebrate Tiverton program as proposed, identified in items B, 1A through D, and more particularly described in the attachments to the agenda, 1A, B, C, and D, subject to all meeting any legal requirements.
Second.
Before we do?
Mr. President, I think that these should be separate votes
Yes,
because...
on each one. Yep.
On each one. Okay. Did you say that and I missed it? I apologize.
No, he didn't en masse, but
like the-
we'll take your, you'll take the motion in pieces if you want to start.
Okay, well, we'll start off with, one concern I have is that and I specifically referred to the attachments, because the attachments seem a little bit broader sometimes. For example, I don't quite see the Cajun Zydeco dancing on the agenda, really, but I saw it in your notes.
Okay.
So presumably, we're incorporating all of this by reference. Item 1, I move for adoption of item 1A, subject to meeting any legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I move for approval of item AB, subject to meeting any legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I move that we approve item 1C, subject to meeting any legal requirements.
Second.
All those in favor?
And I move that we approve item 1D, subject to meeting any legal requirements.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you and Tiverton First for all the hard work you're doing in putting this together. I hope it's a start of something great for the town of Tiverton.
Thank you, we hope as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'd love to see you all walk as well as run.
Oh, I don't know about the running part. Okay, Gary Plunkett, update on various wind energy interests in Tiverton.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. It's been a very, very long time since I've been before you on this subject. In fact, I think for some of you, it's the first time. So, for your information, Dennis Culberson and I have, almost 3 years ago now, were appointed to represent Tiverton with the East Bay Energy Consortium. Lots of water has gone under the bridge since that time. As you recall, the effort to get legislation for the state to form a public corporation that would enable the East Bay Energy Consortium to go forward failed, and that was almost a year ago. So this is an effort to try to kind of regroup in terms of where we are, where we think we are, and where we should be going. The reason it's taken so long to come before you and kind of give a wrap-up or a status report is that we were waiting on the budget deliberations. We were very interested in whether the Rhode Island Economic Development Foundation was going to be funded, because we thought that would be a tremendous opportunity to get professional assistance in and really look at this, the industrial park thing, as one big project, and with their assistance really develop some kind of a viable plan that might or may or may not have included wind energy. But anyway, that obviously didn't work out. So we're kind of, from my point of view, sort of back where we started in terms of the industrial park. Let me give you a little quick update on where I think EBEC is. And let me point out that all of what I'm saying tonight is my personal view. I'm not representing EBEC before you. This is what I think about what's going on and where, what we might do next. There's no active effort going on. Oh, by the way, you had a big, long report on all the EBEC initiatives and what's happening, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. Again, just give you a couple of quick thoughts on on my own personal opinion. There's no active effort to restart the state legislation thing. And they have not, it's my understanding, they have not given up on that, but there's nothing ongoing right now to initiate another draft to get it before this legislature. I personally think that that is not really a viable way to go. I just don't see it politically happening because of all the issues that we saw that were against that. And so I think Tiverton ought to look in a different direction. One thing very important about EBEC is, however, that they do have the funds to decommission the Met Tower. And that has been reserved, and that should be coming down sometime late in the summer. August is the 2-year anniversary date, and we have a permit through that date. And I will say that that is some very valuable information. So that is one concrete thing that we got out of EBEC, and that's that wind study funded, so that if we ever go in the direction of developing wind energy, it's going to be very attractive for the developer because they'll have good data, 2 years worth of data. It'll lower the risk. It'll allow them to make much more accurate projections on revenues and so on because they'll have the real data. In my personal view, wind energy should remain on the table for the industrial park and the surrounding properties. Apex Wind is still interested in Tiverton, very interested in Tiverton. In fact, they are negotiating right now with the 2 water authorities for rights on their properties. I think it's really important to move forward and develop a policy for the industrial park. If wind energy is not on the table, that ought to be made clear. I mean, Apex or any developer needs to know that. So that's one of the things that I think that is important. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be on the table. In fact, I think it should remain on the table. But I think it should be clear just what the town's policy is for wind energy in the industrial park. I think that general area out there between the water authorities and the industrial park and the other surrounding land is a very, very attractive site for wind energy. That only means, or that means that maybe only 1 or 2 will be on the industrial park property, but a complex in that aggregate of properties has great potential for the town, I believe. So I think a next good step would be to have some kind of a meeting, maybe a workshop with all of the stakeholders. And I'm talking Apex is the only private firm that's shown interest, so I think we should consider them as a stakeholder. Or maybe we want to hold off on that. But in any case, they probably have some very good information for us. But the Economic Development Committee of the town, the Planning Board, the council, who have I forgotten? The water authorities, obviously. We should all get together in one place and talk about this and see, you know, if we want to move forward on it. The main thing is that would give concrete direction is to go ahead and direct the planning board to write a wind turbine ordinance, wind energy ordinance. That will define the town's policy. And I think the main target of that ordinance will be that site out there. So, I mean, to do that will make us all sit down and decide where we want to go and write an ordinance that clearly indicates that. I think I would strongly urge that that ordinance include provisions for any wind energy project in that area out there be developed as one master plan, so that it's all done at one time and coordinated, and it's one project rather than a cats and dogs showing up over a period of years. So that's kind of where we are. It seems like we've kind of settled into the position of kind of waiting for the silver bullet to come along for the industrial park again. And I think this is one project, this is one industry that is going to grow. Now, I know there's been some pretty bad things that's happened in terms of wind energy in the state recently. The 38 studios, the failure of the Portsmouth turbine. But the lessons, I think, are that it's extremely important to put them in the right spot. Location, location, location. I think town governments probably have no business trying to operate a wind turbine, and that it should be a private project. But I don't know if any of you saw the report in the news yesterday that the CO2 in the atmosphere is at the highest point it's been in 10 million years, was it? And when it was that high in the past, sea level was 63 feet above what it is today. You know, I know that's a big environmental scare story, but yes, gas is cheap now, energy's cheap now, fossil fuel energy is cheap now because of cheap gas, but wind energy is definitely going to be part of this country's future, and we got a really good spot for it. And it just so happens that spot is not much good for anything else. So, questions?
Yeah. Well, now I have two questions, Mr. President. Yeah. The first question, are you suggesting that we have the joint meeting, then the ordinance? I think you were reversing it.
No,
You were saying ordinance.
that
and
would
then-
be the proper order.
Okay,
yeah,
that
of
makes
course,
sense,
yeah.
okay. Secondly, the one issue that I keep hearing about on the wind energy is that one incident after another of the wind turbines, for whatever reason, stopping. I don't understand the science or the engineering involved, but they stop. And it seems that every company that built one of these turbines goes out of business, and everyone that installed one goes out of business, and then the municipality is stuck with a bill for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. The proposed legislation that's being considered in Providence, how would that address that particular type of problem? Such as the problem they now have, I think it's a similar problem that they now have in Portsmouth. That is, they don't have anybody to point a finger of blame at this point except
Yeah.
themselves.
Well, that was a very unfortunate story, obviously. The town got that project going, got funding for it, and the contractor erected it and then went out of business. They also had the contract for the day-to-day maintenance monitoring. So when they went out of business, it was not monitored for a period of time. And here's the problem with town government, you know, without a strong incentive to keep something going. Weeks and months went by without the thing being monitored. If it had been monitored all the way through that, that would have never happened. So that's the problem with that instance. As far as the industry success, I think, matches the success of other industries in terms of the downtime rates, industry-wide. I mean, where you look at thousands of turbines that are in Europe, there's 5% of them or something that are down at any one time for whatever. And I think industry-wide in this country, there's a similar data to support that. We happen to be right here where we've only got 2 or 3, and, there's been problems with a couple of them. So it looks very bad locally. But, and also, I think the key is, again, if you go with private development, they've got all the incentive to make sure those things are put up right, maintained, monitored, and because if they go down, they're losing money.
Yeah, I think my question was just a little bit more focused, and maybe it's for another time, but no, I understand everybody has the incentive, but when you're talking about a windmill turbine that's supposed to be up there 25 or 30 years, things happen. And the fact is, this is happening in a lot of municipalities, if I'm following the news correctly, and that is some town put up 6 or 7, now they have 6 or 7 turbines to take down for millions of dollars. If you just project this over 25 or 30 years, I guess my concern would be if I was voting on behalf of a town, this may look like a nice company today, but is it going to be around 25 or 30 years from now when you have to take the turbine down? I guess I was focused on is there any legislation at all in Providence at this point that would address that type of problem?
I don't know of any that would address that specific problem. I know that, the state there's already legislation that says a certain amount of the state's energy is going to be from renewable sources by 2020, I think it is, and somebody's going to make that, whether it's made in Rhode Island or somewhere else. But I don't know of any legislation that's supposedly addressing the specific thing that you mentioned.
Mr. Lambert, just to kind of answer that, I think it underscores a couple of things. I think with any, business venture, there is a certain amount of risk that needs to be considered and try to be factored in and mitigated if possible. The second thing is that, I do agree that if, and I think that wind energy does have a potential future in this area. I think getting the data, and that assumes that the data is very positive. I think it's absolutely critical that we let the Met Tower take its course and that we secure that data so that we can make certain and specific fact-based decisions here. I think the other thing to note, and I believe it was in that EBEC report, is that the state is working on siting guidelines, statewide siting guidelines, to help improve and give guidance to municipalities and other entities in terms of citing these things in a proper way. But I would love to move forward with a joint workshop with these entities, as Mr. Plunkett outlined, to continue the discussion. I don't think. I think it would be most prudent to continue the discussion and have all key stakeholders involved so that we could move forward in a very sound and thoughtful way.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, and we see it because it's in our backyard, I think is the technology. And over the course of the years, these turbines have changed dramatically from what they used to be 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And I think that my concern is to make sure that if we're going to move forward with wind energy in town, is that we have to be assured somehow that it's going to be the most up-to-date technology and have all the backing behind it. Because again, it's as Mr. Lambert said, it's one thing to be able to have this, but then 5 years, 10 years down the road, all of a sudden you're looking at these things, if there are issues with them, and then you have no way to turn. So I think that's critical. I believe that wind energy is part of the future, wind and solar. And we are lucky, and don't take this wrong, it doesn't come from the council, but we do have a lot of wind in Tiverton. So, so that's one good thing, as we know from the data, that's showing that. And we do have some sites that are probably perfect for it. But I think a joint meeting would be in our best interest, and to understand, where it's actually going. We understand, what's going on with Cape Wind, what's going out there. That's going to be a big industry in our backyard, because New Bedford and Fall River are going to be behind it, hopefully building that stuff and moving it out of there, so that we may have the technology right in our backyard if Cape Wind goes forward as planned. So I think it's something that we really need to look at. So I think we will reach out and see if we can set some sort of workshop with all the stakeholders and see where we go with this.
I would agree. I think that meeting would be productive. And one thing to add is, through that, it just sort of dawned on me that through the master plan process, if that is the process that we as a town adopt for a large-scale project like this, it reminds me of very similar to other type approvals that the planning board gives, that similar to subdivisions, that where a developer would be required to put a surety or a bond or some sort of cash payment aside in the event of XYZ. And we're particularly, I know over the course of the 2.5 years that I've been here, particularly more sensitive to that over the last few years, where developers have gone out of business, or they've left, or they haven't finished, or it's gone to a bank or whatever. So we've been, I know the planning board has been more proactive or more interested in getting those sorts of things on the table and making sure there's a backup plan if and when these guys go out of business. So, I mean, I don't know the mechanics of it just yet, but that rang a bell, something to the effect of, subject to you putting some sort of bond in place that would cover the cost or most of the cost of a removal of these things in the event that you retire to Florida and never to be seen again. We have our hindquarters covered somewhat, at least. So that's something I'm sure that'll come out of these discussions, but anyway.
Mr. Pelletier, just for your information, the planning board did create a draft ordinance some time ago. You remember reviewing that? And that draft did include provisions for surety to cover decommissioning costs. So that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I mean, the planning board is getting good at approving almost nothing without some sort of attempt at covering the unknowns in the future, and we're certainly more sensitive to that. And, Bill, you mentioned something about the state hitting these citing guidelines and all that stuff. And I think, we've waited around for the state to do their thing for far too long, and I'm perfectly happy to start conversations in advance of, because I'm aware that they're now going to rewrite the standards that they've written and potentially give it to somebody else to rewrite, and it's always been 3 months. Now it's 2 years down the road, and we still don't have anything. So, I think that this meeting can only be helpful to the promotion of wind energy in the town.
Just to amend your comment, Councilor Roderick, about most up-to-date technology, I think that would be fine. Just as long as it's also the most proven technology as well. I work with technology quite a bit, and we always see a lot of newest and greatest things, and a lot of those things are always unproven. So having data to support a particular windmill design that has proven track record, proven technology, and maybe some built-in redundancies, systems where it can have redundancy, would be a good place to start.
Do we need to make a motion to move forward with that workshop, or?
Yes, well, actually, I was going to suggest that, yeah, that's what I was looking to. I was going to suggest that if you will get some dates, and if you would send out just a letter requesting what dates they have for us, and then when we get those dates, then we can make a motion to set a meeting.
Can you just tell me about when you are thinking of
It's at least going to have to be a month or two.
It's going to either be end of June or into July at the earliest. By the time you try to get all these boards and commissions and and the water boards and everything together.
You've got everybody down.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to have Apex there. Is that the view of the council?
I would consider having Apex there to answer any questions we maybe have, but not part of the panel. Only because, I mean, to me, you know, they are in business.
Right.
And that they shouldn't be part of the discussion in total. You know, but
They
if we have
have
technical questions,
Ton of
obviously,
technical
they're...
know-how that
Yeah,
would be helpful.
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be an open meeting, so they're
I'll
going
tell you
to...
something else. Dennis just mentioned you might remember Dan Mendelson.
Yes.
He's the person who, now we may have to pay him a few bucks, but I think he, as an independent person with deep experience in wind energy, it might be really good to have him here. Would that be
Yeah, we can consider that.
possible? All right.
Yeah. Get us an estimate first before you say yes.
Okay.
Gary, just one question. I know you have meetings once a month, first Monday of the month. They're in the morning, so it makes it difficult for people to attend. Is there any plans for meeting minutes to be posted at the Secretary of State website?
It's my understanding they are.
That came up at our last meeting, and it wasn't clear. Evidently there's some new guidelines that came out about posting minutes or getting information out, and we're trying to figure out the right way to do that, since we're all volunteers. We don't have anybody that's paid staff anymore. I'm like Gary. I thought they were being posted, and they might be. But if they're not, we're going to suggest that they do. I mean, there's no reason not to.
They haven't been posted since, I believe, April of last year.
Okay.
So.
I don't know, but
I will.
there's no reason. We talked about that. In fact, we talked about it at our last meeting on this month, and it was tabled to bring it up in June at our next meeting.
All right.
So it is being addressed.
Have you designated a public resource officer?
That was the big issue as to who that would be, since nobody is paid, and that's what was tabled to discuss and
Okay, so
decide
that'll be in the June.
how we're going to deal with that, in June, yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you, you're very welcome to read them, but they're pretty boring right now. But they're talking about street lights. I mean, not that that's not a interesting topic, because there are possibilities for some towns to get into that, but that's the kind of thing
Yeah, I think
they're dealing with
we've
now.
done a bit with streetlights, turning them off, but
Yeah.
there has been other information as to what type of streetlight could also reduce our
Costs.
utility costs. Just a comment, I am a firm believer that since wind turbines are a risky business, in my opinion, it should be left to private industry to develop that. If it was a great moneymaker, they would be doing it right now, and they're not. So I'm a firm believer in private industry. You hear of success stories in towns. Gloucester, you sent out an email identifying Gloucester as another success story. They have wind turbines. But on the flip side, you see another article on Falmouth, who had a plan for 3 wind turbines. They have 1 turbine up, they started the second one, and now they're paying millions of dollars to take down those turbines because the residents of Falmouth do not want them. They are disgusted, they want them gone. So, and we do know from Mr. Blossom that it does impact agricultural endeavors such as egg production and goat milk production. So if it's impacting animals, then I'm certain that it's impacting men, women, and children in their sleep patterns and everything else. So that's my comments for now. Thank you, but thank you for giving us an update. I really do appreciate it.
Anything else? Hey, thanks, Gary. Thanks, Dennis. We appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the town council is sitting as a board of licensing. Non-advertised license.
Nope, we got
Oops, I'm sorry.
the treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the town treasurer, Denise.
I saw her face.
Well, I knew it was going to be perfect, so I figured just,
Well, you'll notice that the agenda item says brief, so I will be brief. Since I started a couple of years ago, it's always been on the back burner to do something about the general ledger software. And when I got the bill for next year's maintenance, it was $10,011, and I thought, I just cannot pay that again, because I just don't believe that the software we have is conducive to running the office the way it should be. I'm sure you're familiar with the reports that I give you every month. This is about it, what you can get out of that system. It's canned, there's not a whole lot of customization, you cannot compare year to year, you really can't do a whole lot. And we had some problems today, and I actually had Sue give me the printouts. We got 2 different balances on the same account, one before lunch, one after lunch. And I said, well, this is perfect, you know, I'll bring it with me tonight. But anyway, I just wanted to update you. I'm seriously considering this. AccuFund, they approached me quite a while ago. I've spoken to a couple of other municipalities who use them. They're incredibly affordable. The flexible. The core system comes with everything that I could possibly imagine, plus the ability to, in the future years, to add modules. And one of the modules, which I think would be a great asset here, is a budget development module, which would standardize the whole budgeting process. And I think it would help the town administrator out and all the department heads immensely. And that's like $1,200. So it's very reasonably priced. As a matter of fact, a couple of the other finance directors I spoke to said that for what this software does, it's the price point can't be beat. It's less than $7,000 for the software. It's very much like QuickBooks. I don't know if any of you are familiar with QuickBooks. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. And the best thing about it is it crosses years, which means you can analyze data over the course of several years. Right now, I can only do this year. I cannot do from the system year to year. All of that has to be done manually. So before I went ahead and spent the $10,000 for software maintenance for next year, which is due July 1, I decided I had to get this back on the front burner, really do my homework, and just bring everybody up to speed what we were considering doing. The company that sells this and supports this and implements it is willing to work with us with a flexible payment plan. So I don't know if any of you had a chance to take a look at what I put in your packets, but if you have any questions or thoughts.
I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
So you purchase a module, is that an annual item you have to purchase every year, or is that lumped into the maintenance?
The software itself is $64.95, and that comes with general ledger, accounts payable, bank reconciliation, psych, it's online, cash receipts, financial report, designer reports and forms, all kinds of Excel importing and exporting. So that's the price of the software. The annual 24-hour, well, I shouldn't say 24 hours support, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, phone support is 25% of the software costs. So that's roughly $1,921.25 a year for annual support. The references that I called and the reseller that I spoke to said that the 25% cost has not risen in 5 years. The only way that cost goes up is if the cost of the software goes up. So it's remained relatively stable. If you add a module, for $1,200, then you're going to pay 25% of that
Right.
as your annual fee.
But the module have to keep adding every year?
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
So the
You-
expansion modules?
um,
Sorry, are they like expansion modules to add
actually-
additional services
Right.
versus? Yeah.
You actually get the whole thing, and then once you decide to move forward, they just turn
Just
it
give you a
on.
license key.
They
yeah.
give you the license key for
Yeah.
it. Right. So I really couldn't see any downside to this.
Is the system totally web-based? So would they be hosting?
No, well, you can
The
do
data,
either
or-
or, but I think that we're going to host it on our server.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I probably believe most municipalities don't web-base their financials.
I don't believe the few I spoke to do, no. I wouldn't imagine.
No.
I think it's easier. I prefer to do it.
Well, there's also security.
More secure.
Yeah, the security,
Yeah.
security concerns. You have to have
Yeah.
more. I don't want to get into it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know the issues you've had with our current, software and stuff like that, and you've talked to other municipalities regarding that are using this, and they find it's much more user-friendly.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
So when we ask you for things, you don't have to go and figure it out by hand anymore?
No.
So as part of the implementation costs, did they send someone on site?
Yes,
Or-
we have 80 hours of implementation.
Okay.
And I spoke to him at length the other day about exactly what that timetable was. And some of it's back office, and they're out here for about a week, implementing all of the windows and the screens. We can designate how we want them to look, what we want, so they take all of that back home and do that behind the scenes. And then they'll be training us.
Yeah, what about the data transfer?
Well, actually, I don't really see much reason to transfer any data. I'll be able to access everything previously. We'll be transferring a new chart of accounts, which we can actually keep our chart of accounts pretty much the way it already is, so the way everybody already knows the fund, the department, the object. We have to add one more digit, which will actually give us a little more flexibility for opening accounts. But I'm not going to load history. Maybe down the road, we can export into Excel and load 1 year of history so we can have a comparative analysis, but I don't really want to pay them to do that, considering you've never had it before.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Maybe down the road, okay, this isn't going to be a big deal, and I can handle it myself.
I was just, it sounds great. I just had two questions. Is it, and I'm just, because I'm still learning, is this the sort of thing that you typically go out to RFP for?
Well, that's a good question, but according to the state procurement regulations, certain computer software
Oh, okay.
is
Exempt.
exempt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
I guess
then,
it all depends on what you want and how much you're willing to pay. I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure there's other software out there, but not at this kind of price and what we're looking for.
sure. So if, it sounds like that you might reappropriate the 10,000 that might have been used
Yes, that's
for
my
this.
plan.
And then where does the balance of
balance
the
would come
implementation
from-
cost come on?
Well, this is my projected hope. By the end of this fiscal year, I have money left from the GASB 45, the OPEB report that I didn't have to do this year. And then I've got some computer money, $1,350 there, and $500 from the treasurer's report that we didn't have to do. So that, with a reimbursement that I'm waiting for, is going to give me about $13,000. And then the $10,000 from next year, because they'll split it up
Yep.
Oh,
over the
okay.
2 years. So I should be good.
Good.
And then I might go scrounging for a little more.
Yep.
But then we're saving $8,000.
But then you're going to save $8,000.
A year.
A year, right.
Yep.
So, that's it.
Now, we did add a human resource module, right, to the current software.
That's not general ledger software. That's a whole different, that's the payroll package.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay.
All set?
Thank
No
you
more
very
questions?
much, Mrs. Sorrell.
Does she need a vote?
Okay, now we'll go to the town council sitting as a board of licensing, non-advertised license.
No, because it's the treasurer. It's the treasurer, we don't.
Raymond LePage, is Raymond here? Okay, I'm not. Request from St. Teresa's Parish, 265 Stafford Road, request 3 Class F one-day liquor licenses for the annual parish festival, subject to meeting all legal requirements for August 2nd, 2013, between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m., August 3rd, 2013, between 12 p.m. and 11 p.m., and August 4th, 2013, between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Chief?
Good evening. This event's been held in the past. There's been no problems there. Background checks revealed no problem with the applicant. I would recommend that the council approve these licenses.
There is no further discussion from the council. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request for 3 one-day Class F liquor licenses to St. Teresa's annual feast for August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of 2013.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's passed. Okay, Euro Gifts LLC, doing business as Firework Connection. Are they here? Request approval of fireworks permit at 34 Main Road from May 13th, 2013 to November 30th, 2013, subject to meeting all legal requirements. Response from the fire department. Chief?
Good evening. Unless I'm mistaken, both of these should be approved from the fire marshals. We did have one that was at 5 Main Road that we did have a problem with, and I believe that one's been removed from the agenda.
We've got a note from Thomas Mello, Assistant Deputy State Fire Marshal, saying Eurogifts is concerned we cannot support issuance of licensing based on the inability to inspect the property or have contact with owners or management.
That was Inspector Mello who had said he had not been able to.
Have you seen
Then I am mistaken
As
from
far
what was
as,
given. I'm sorry.
as far as
My apologies, then.
Eurogifts LLC at 34 Main Road is concerned, we cannot support issuance of licensing based on the inability to inspect the property or have contact with owners or management.
And I am inaccurate in my assessment of
That's
it. I
all
thought
right.
he had approved both of them. My apologies.
It's made subject to meeting, though, it wouldn't be issued until the chief signs off on it. That's all part of the check.
We have got quite a few of these, so. Yeah.
And this is an existing facility that changed hands. 34 Main Road was a fireworks, it was something else, right?
It's,
Right.
what it is
Jokers.
that they're selling it year-round, as opposed to most of our permits that come in. They want it specifically for a couple of weeks around the 4th of July. I even have more requests.
Yeah, we're getting quite a few of them.
Yeah, but I'm
And that particular place sells them year-round.
right, but it is a new owner, if I'm not mistaken. It was called Joker's Fireworks, and now it's called Eurogifts, doing business as Firework Connection.
I don't think it's an owner, I think it's just changed.
Just to change the name,
Well, what is it?
So,
It's the same.
is it?
It's the same guy. I think they name changed.
Well, no, because Richard Langlois was the manager of Joker. He is the owner of Eurogifts DBA Firework Connection. Anyway, it doesn't matter, either way.
Yeah, you're still subject to all legal
Yeah.
requirements. Anything else from the council? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve a fireworks license for year-round fireworks sale to Eurogifts LLC, doing business as Firework Connection, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Okay. BJ Allen, doing business as Phantom Fireworks, requests approval of holiday license and firework permit at 526 Main Road from June 22nd, 2013 to July 6, 2013, subject to meeting all legal requirements. A response from the fire department, which Chief had already given us.
Okay, I would move that we approve the holiday license for retail sales of fireworks to BJ Allen, doing business as Phantom Fireworks at 526 Main Road, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Appointments and resignations. Appointments and reappointments, Group A, advertised per policy terms beginning April 15th. 1, Conservation Commission, 3-year term expiring April 15th, 2016. We have Patricia M. Hilton of 99 Peaceful Way. Is Miss Hilton here?
Hang on, we gotta do that
Wait a
again.
minute.
Just hold on a sec, Pat.
Let's go back.
You can sit there, but just
Back
wait
to
a
that.
minute.
There were 2 licenses. I missed one.
There's 2.
There's 2 licenses. So I'll just say it. I will move that we approve a fireworks year-round license to BJ Allen, doing business
Oh,
as
right.
Phantom Fireworks,
Yeah.
subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Okay, we have a motion, second. All those in favor?
Aye. Sorry about
Motion
that.
carries. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
22nd to July 6th.
2013
It's a holiday license and a fireworks
permit.
Two different things
Well-
for the abbreviated time.
Write down whatever it is that he wanted.
As understood. Okay. Hi, Pat.
Hello.
Hi. I just want to give you the opportunity just to say a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you.
Well, my name is Tricia Hilton. I'm a resident of Tiverton from Peaceful Way. I've been on the Conservation Commission now, I think, for 2 years or 3 years. I don't exactly remember. And I do enjoy my work on the Conservation Commission. I like the other commissioners I work with, so I'd be happy to be reappointed if it pleased the council.
Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I will gladly make the motion to reappoint Tricia Hilton to a new 3-year term on the Conservation Commission, expiring on April 15th, 2016.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you again for volunteering. Okay, the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, term expiring January 5th, 2015. Appointment of 2 council members. Do we have anybody?
Are we seeking volunteers? Or is this?
Do we?
Yeah, the-
Two council?
2 council.
Oh.
The resolution that was adopted requires 2 council members be appointed. Right, volunteered.
I don't remember that.
How many more rings can I throw the hat?
Okay, I will make it very simple. I will appoint Mr. Gerlach as one. Is there interest from any other counselor?
I can do-
I would be
oh.
interested.
All right.
And I would like to appoint
It was easy.
Mrs. Shabbat. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for volunteering. And we have a resignation from the Recreation Commission, Richard E. Bush III of 51 Deer Run Road. I'll read his letter. I mean, a letter from the town administrator. It says, "It's come to our attention their attendance at the Recreation Commission meetings has been lacking in recent months. So take this opportunity to remind you that according to the Town of Tiverton Homeroom Charter, Section 1210, regarding absenteeism, a committee member who does not attend at least 66 2/3% of regularly scheduled meetings of boards and commissions during a 1-year period shall be considered removed from such commission. It's unfortunate, but we will accept the resignation and send him our thanks for his past service. Okay, and now we have an opening on the Recreation Commission, so if anyone is interested, please see Mrs. Mello.
Two.
Okay, unfinished business, Counselor Aruda.
Oh, yes. I just originally put this on our agenda because previously it was put on our agenda to possibly be discussed, possibly having an ordinance change to allow dogs to be permitted on the town farm walk track. That item was removed, and I figured to put it back on just for our discussion to see if it's prudent to have a hearing or to post a ordinance change to allow this or not. And before I continue, I just had this put on the agenda just to follow the due process for this to occur. And also, I'd like to point out that I would not be in favor for dogs to be permitted on the town farm track for a few reasons. It doesn't make sense to allow dogs in that area. There are numerous fields, a lot of children, baseball games, softball games, soccer fields, soccer games. The playground, very close proximity of the track. It doesn't make sense to allow dogs at that location. I just basically wanted to follow due process to have the discussion in front of the council for possible ordinance change.
Okay, before
Amen.
I allow, anything from the council, because again, I want to remind everybody that this is an open meeting. This portion is not a hearing, but I will allow you to speak in a moment. If anyone else from the council?
Well, Mr. President, I have a brief comment. I was surprised that Mrs. Pelletier, who, by the way, owns a dachshund, would favor this proposal. Having two dachshunds myself who wake up every morning looking for trouble, it's a good thing we all use discretion when we take these dogs out for walks. You never see a problem on Nantucket. But I think I understand why. People know which dogs to take and which dogs not to take. It's common sense. But in thinking this over, the problem I have with the farm is that if you had a bad dog on a bad day that gets loose, and just the sheer number of people I've seen there on some given days, and the number of kids, I'm not so sure that, I don't know how well you can control a situation like that. I mean, I can tell you I would never bring two dachshunds, Mrs. Pelletier, to a... No. I've seen your dachshunds. I've seen the dachshunds. I know, but I mean, still, we don't want to... that's my only comment. I think that there's just too many people there. If one dog decided to have a bad day, you'd end up with an awful lot of people with bites.
Okay. Mr. Martin?
All I wanted to say is amen, but we have investigated this, we being the Recreation Commission, several times. And it just came up a few months ago again, and it was investigated again, and the Recreation Commission voted against having dogs there. Unfortunately, you got a small percentage of people who do not abide by the law. And I've been told so many times, I'm a taxpayer at Tiverton, doesn't matter, I can leave my dog's poop there. And that's the mentality. And that's why we're against it. It's not allowed in the cemeteries. We do allow it on the beaches, only on off-season. I had a woman a couple of years ago, her dog crapped on the beach. I said, lady, you gotta leave that there? She said, yeah, it won't do no harm. I said, there's kids running around barefooted. And she took her foot and pushed some sand over the top of it and walked away. But that's what happened, so that's why you have to not allow it for the few, and they're a minority. Most dog owners will pick up, but unfortunately, we have that minority. That's where we're coming from. Thank you.
Okay, the historian here. Let's see, going back to 1991, the EPA actually labeled dog waste as a non-point source pollutant, placing it in the same category as herbicides, insecticides, oil, grease, everything else. So it is problematic in and of itself. The second part is we run into a cycle. Dog feces is not only just what you see, it's the eggs and everything else that is in it. It can be around for a long, long time. You can't even use it as fertilizer in your own garden because of its toxic waste. There are numerous viruses and bacteria that can be transferred from our feline and our dog friends, canine friends, to humans. As far as people picking up after themselves, the CDC actually commissioned a study. They found less than 44% of dog owners pick up after their dogs. So we're talking less than 50%. Our biggest concern was, especially at Town Farm, first of all, only one field is actually fenced in, and that's the Little League field. Everything else is pretty much open. Where do you delineate where the track ends and the grass begins? When the kids are out playing soccer, they're going to play right up to that track line. Basically, those were my main concerns. I won't even go into the bacteria and parasites. I won't. But on the side, I do agree with Mrs. Pelletier as far as having a dog park in Tiverton. I've talked to Julia Seveny, who is the dog officer in Newport, on various subjects, and they do not allow any dogs on any of their recreation property. But she said the dog park is the way to go. So I think, speaking for myself, I can bring this to recreation, and I think that's possibly we can work with the entities that are interested in doing a dog park, because it is still recreation for the individual as well as for the pet, to socialize, and for the dog.
Thank you.
And think of it this way, in the meantime, there are 5 barrels picked up every week on the streets of Tiverton that are not polluting. Because they are being used.
Yes.
And if I can add, it would be appreciated if the dog officer, when possible, I know they're busy, could enforce our ordinances. There are numerous people taking dogs down to La Pointe Field, which is the lower field where the large soccer field is, and running their dogs. That is a baseball, Little League field.
Yep.
They are literally running their dogs frequently down there. They're out of the line from Main Road. It's a nice place to hide, but unfortunately, damage to an athletic field, as we all know, can occur very, very easily and is extremely expensive to repair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chief, I can see you have something you want to
I
add.
really don't want to, but I will comment only on the fact that the dog officer is actually pulling double duty right now. I'm using him as a dispatcher. I'm down a couple people for illnesses and vacancies, and he is pulling double duty. But he has been told to try to vary his hours, because people know when he's working, when he's not. So we are trying to get to this location. I will check on the lower fields, but we are going to vary his hours to, actually, I want to get him in a couple weekend hours too as well. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Okay, financial business. Town Administrator, request authorization to transfer $57,715.92 from account to 102799 future needs to various police and fire accounts contract negotiations.
I'm requesting this transfer. Obviously, we're all aware of the fact of what the future needs account was set up for. And we're now at the time where it appears as though both the police and fire department will need funding to make it through the end of the fiscal year because of the increased costs in the contracts that were ratified last fall. So I would request that these transfers be approved.
Okay, any discussion? I just have one little minor one, Jim. Why is there a 1 penny difference?
A 1 penny difference? What do you mean a 1 penny?
Well, you're requesting $35,015.91, and the other one you're requesting $22,700. So where's the other penny?
The police department is looking for 91 cents. and the fire department isn't.
Right, but your request on the agenda is for 92.
No, 91.
Oh, yeah.
The agenda says 92.
Oh, the agenda.
Give it a penny.
Now, she's got an extra penny.
Okay, I just want everything to match as to what's here.
So what we need is 57.
92 and 9.
Oh, on that. Yeah.
It's on the agenda.
It's difficult to get a penny out of it. When it's
I know. All right, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion to approve this as amended from the agenda.
So moved?
A motion and a second. All those in favor? The motion carries. Okay. Tony Lynn McGowan, tax collector, requests council approval to abate and remove $16,149.78 in motor vehicle intangible uncollectible.
Good evening.
evening,
These are
Tony.
accounts that have been sitting on the tax roll since 2001, motor vehicle intangible. We've exhausted all methods of collection. We've blocked them at the registry. We've turned them over to our collection agency, and all efforts have been unsuccessful, so asking to abate them and remove them from the rolls, as they've also passed the statute of limitations of 10 years.
I know.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request to abate and remove $16,149.78 in motor vehicle intangible and tangible uncollectibles.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under new business. We have 5 contract ratifications. Number 1, Town Administrator.
As you're well aware of the fact that the last meeting we did 3 contracts we ratified. These are the remaining contracts for the department heads and the town administrator. I'm asking that they be ratified. There's only one correction that I will note when we get to the code enforcement officer, but
I'm sorry?
I said there's one correction I will note when we get to the code enforcement officer. But right now, we're at the tax collector.
Lynn said that.
Yeah.
Any concerns?
No.
Okay, is there anything you want to add or say, Jim or Tony Lynn?
We worked together as a group. We went back and forth regarding the model contract, and I'm happy with the results.
Any further discussion from the council?
I just have a comment. The timing is a little screwy to me. We in our packets for executive session, we have performance evaluations, which are not on the agenda for discussion for these contracts. And I think it might behoove us to review those before we approve contracts for the folks tonight, and put this on the agenda for the next meeting so that we can notice those folks and we can actually discuss these items. It just makes sense to me that we review their performance evaluations and then award a contract. It's my 2 cents. Not to drag this out any longer than necessary, but the last 3, we did not have these, and so it didn't sort of occur to me to that we didn't. And seeing them in the packet just made me think that, why read these after the fact? That's all. And they weren't on the agenda, so we can't talk about them anyway. We need to notice the people we're going to be discussing performance of, and we didn't do that, so it would be my suggestion that we just postpone this for whatever our next meeting is, and we notice those folks, and we discuss these performance evaluations before we award any more contracts.
Would that be done in executive session?
Well,
If they so choose?
The solicitor can just give the real legal answer, but they have the option of having it.
Right. They do have the option.
They can, was it force us into open, but it's, or is it the other way around? Yeah.
They're entitled to it to be confidential. They can request
That it be
that
an
to go
open.
into open session. The vote would be in open session.
Right.
The biggest thing is when we discuss the performance or, the job of an employee, we have to notice them formally in writing before we do so that they have the opportunity to be in the room. And it's, I don't know what the requirement of timing is, but it's not going to be. It's okay. So, but it would take us time to just issue those things before our next meeting in 2 weeks.
I would just like to point out one other thing, though. As far as the town administrator's contract, we haven't done an evaluation.
Well, yeah,
as of yet.
that's the other sort of, it's on top of
I was wondering
here,
if we could
so.
wait 4 weeks so that we'd
I
have
don't-
plenty of time to do that and discuss that.
We could
And
stagger,
also,
I mean, we
I'm
could
not-
stagger them. We've
Yeah,
got,
we can
we've
stagger.
got 5 to do,
Yeah.
so we could chip away at 2 or 3 and then do 2 or 3. That way we're not dragging this on too long, if that's the pleasure of the council.
You could probably do the first 3 for the next meeting.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and then the
next
next
2 after
for the
that.
following.
Yeah, give us a
But
couple of extra weeks.
Meanwhile, Nancy, we'll have to do the evaluation and turn them into you for Jim. Because we have those, I don't know if everybody's.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay.
Right. Yeah, we'll discuss that later.
So is that something that
Well,
makes sense?
Yeah, and again,
I agree with that.
it was my thought too, and nothing, Tony Lynn, I don't want you to
Yeah,
feel,
sorry.
it has nothing to do with you. But it is true that we have other information that is sort of after the fact.
That's fine.
So,
Willing to come back.
Yep,
Thanks.
so you will be noticed as
Very
per the
good.
charter.
Thank you very much.
But again, it's just that it was like putting the cart before the horse.
Not a problem.
So we just want to ensure that we're looking at everything,
And approve the contracts or not approve them on the same night.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
have to hold that, do the evaluations in executive session. come
And then
out.
come
But no,
back
but
up.
I think it might be, I mean, historically, we've been pretty slow to get the administrator's evaluation together, so giving it an extra 2
Well,
weeks.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, right.
So
Right,
our
so the
next,
top
our next
3.
meeting
Yeah, that's fine.
would be
Just do
28th.
23.
Can we do it by the 28th? Is that enough time to notice?
Yeah.
So we'll do
Alright.
1,
You
2,
can have it
So-
tomorrow
so
morning
1,
in
2,
their
and 3
mailbox.
1, 2, and 3.
for the 28th,
And
and 4 and 5 for the next meeting, which would be June 10th.
And, Mr. President, just so I'm clear that I heard Mrs. Mello correctly, that we could discuss hypothetically, if the individual noticed, wanted it in private, we could do it in executive
yeah,
session and then
yes.
come out.
Right, and
okay.
the vote is
But then
taken.
they can ask for
Okay.
it to be done in public,
Right.
and then we are obligated to
Okay.
do it in
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, no.
If it's done in excuse me, did I hear you?
No, I'm just
If,
trying to hear.
if it's done in executive session, they're entitled to attend.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think this is a prudent
Yeah.
course of action.
Okay, so I think I will request that it be in a form of a motion.
I move that we place the first 2,
Three.
I'm sorry, the first 3 contract ratifications for Ms. Tony Lynn McGowan, Chief Lloyd, and DPW Director Bellucci on our next meeting,
5/28.
May 28th, and notice those 3 individuals for executive or open session, whatever their preference.
And then number 4.
Well, we'll do a second.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And I would also move that we schedule to the ratification of building official contract Gareth Eames and town administrator James Gonzalo for the meeting of June 10th. Same language.
Second.
Yep.
Make sure before I start to notice these. Are you telling me you're going to schedule the contract and the evaluation the same night?
Yes.
You're going to have this?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yes.
Just
Yep.
figured notice
Okay.
them and then
Yes.
we can,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bids and requests for proposals. DPW Director Berlucci.
Good evening. I think before you have a request from myself to purchase 240 cubic yard roll-offs for the landfill. The funding is proposed to come from reimbursement money that we got from Rhode Island Resource Recovery for great recycling efforts that we did last year. I think we collected pretty close to $34,000 and for the tonnage we brought there. I think I attached a little explanation of why, kind of a benefit cost analysis of why what we're doing right now isn't efficient. It doesn't seem to be efficient. It isn't efficient. It's wasting a lot of our time and our resources. And I foresee that in a few years, when landfill is closed, we're going to have to look at some way of providing recycling services for all of our households. And logically, this would be the way we're going, into a roll-off situation for all of them. And I would envision this is the start. These are two we need right now. They will last way off into the distance, so they're not going to wear out. And hopefully, at some point in time, we can buy our own truck to haul them and save money that way, so we can provide, efficient, on-time services instead of waiting around for a truck to come and pick up our stuff while our employees are sitting there. So this is the start. It's not coming out of any funding from the taxpayers. It's coming from a reimbursement from Resource Recovery. And it's been approved unanimously by the Landfill and Recycling Committee.
Does this require a transfer of account, Jim?
No.
No?
No, the money that was returned to us is in a restricted account, so it can be taken out of that restricted account, and it's for the purpose of recycling.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the council?
Just a quick question, Mr. Bellucci. Apologies if I missed this, but so who would actually haul, in the absence of having our own truck, who hauls the new roll-offs?
We hire a hauler for $75 an hour.
Oh, okay.
So it's about 3 hours back and forth, 4 hours back and forth, depending on the quantity we haul. So.
Okay. Any further questions from the council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request to advertise for bids to purchase 2 40 cubic yard roll-off containers for landfill recycling.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
All right, thank you.
Motion
Could I
carries.
just ask Nancy to change the date on the legal notice to the 23rd bid opening, because obviously we're not going to make the 16th.
Where do you want me to advertise this?
This kind of times, will be fine.
Sometimes?
Yep.
It's not going to make this week. So sometimes I readjust the dates.
Okay. You're going to adjust it anyhow? You would have, okay, just remind me. Thank you.
And DPW Bellucci requests authorization to advertise for bids to purchase a chipper. I thought we had a chipper.
We have a 22-year-old chipper
Well, it sounds pretty chipper to me.
that has serviced 3 huge storms in the last year and a half, and it's getting tired, and it's getting hard to get replacement parts. It is still working. We'll probably get around $4,000 to $5,000 in the trade-in, so it's a good time to trade it in. It was a hard, I mean, we got the $33,000 back from FEMA. This is Sandy money coming back from FEMA to the DPW. That really is only 75% of what the DPW put out, because we had to eat the 25% co-share, if you want to call it that. So I looked at it, this is an opportunity to prepare for another major event. We're having them every 6 months, and we have one chipper. And during an event, if this breaks down, we're not going to rent one, we're not going to buy one, there's not going to be anything out there, and we're going to be in deep trouble. So it's an opportunity to upgrade some stock without going to the taxpayers again. And I just felt it was...
Are we going to trade? Are we going to trade the old one, or are we going to?
We're going to trade, the advertisement will be for trading the old one in too. Yep.
Best guesstimate on the cost?
Yeah, we get an estimate of roughly $31,000 with the trade-in. That's around a $5,000 trade-in. Cost of the unit is probably around $35, $36 if you just straight bought it off the shelf. So that's what we're guessing.
Okay. Anything else from the council? I'll entertain a motion. Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you. Deborah Polish. I just want to, if it's a FEMA reimbursement, we spent the money and we're getting reimbursed. So did we have enough money in the budget to spend the overage? So I'm trying to reconcile in my head how this is working. So we spent the money, and now we're getting reimbursed, and we're saying this is extra, which says to me we had the money in the budget for what the unanticipated expense, and this is now extra?
No.
It's not really extra. We were able to do the work that we did within the funding that we have.
Right.
And you know, as in many other accounts, as you go through the year, if this happened in October, we probably wouldn't be doing this. But because it's May, and we know what money we have left, we can afford to do.
Right,
this
so
with the
so
FEMA
within the
reimbursement.
budget that we had, we were able to cover our expenses that we had because of the storm. So
Yes.
this isn't reimbursing
We
and
were able-
offsetting.
We were able to cover 25% of the expenditures.
Right.
Yeah, we had budgeted for, we're getting back 25%, so in essence, we are getting money. but-
Right, so this is
Yeah.
extra money that we won't be putting back into general fund.
Right. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request for authorization to advertise for bids to purchase a chipper.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. The same thing, Nancy, the 23rd on the date.
Tony Lynn McGowan, tax collector, requests waiver of bid process for 2013 tax bills. Tony Lynn?
This is the same company that we've used for, as far as I could find, at least 2002. Last year, I just kind of looked around to make sure they were competitive. They're extremely competitive in their pricing, and they've been reliable, and I would request that we use them again this year, if approved.
Okay. Any discussion from the council? All right, I will entertain, oops, go ahead.
What accounts for the increase over last year?
Let's see. Well, I don't have a side-by-side comparison, but the overall bill went up 2.68%, and it was in like a penny in the fold insert fee. It's a penny for, I think that went up, and a few other things. They were nominal increases, but overall that accounts for the increase.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request for waiver by the tax collector for the bid process for the 2013 tax bills per the explanation set forth in agenda item H3.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Town Administrator, request permission to advertise bids for fuel monitoring system for all vehicles utilizing town fuel.
Yes. We have looked at this fuel monitoring system, and it would help tremendously in controlling usage and reporting usage by everyone who pulls up to either the police department pump or the highway department pumps diesel and gas. The proposal would be to move the police tank over to the highway garage, and we would do that ourselves. Okay, this would be to purchase the software and the necessary hardware with keys and ID cards to monitor the usage. No one would be able to get gas by just flipping the switch and getting gas and having to fill out a little piece of paper that goes to, for example, when I get gas in my town vehicle at the police station, I have to fill out a little piece of paper. I bring it here, I give it to my assistant, it goes to the police chief, then it goes to his assistant, then, you know what I mean? These slips can get lost. I think it's prudent. There are a lot of communities right around us that are getting these systems as well. So I'd like to go out to bid to get a price to install this. And the funding for this would come from all of the departments. We've got an analysis. I don't have it here, but we've got 2 years of experience of the use by each department and prorated the cost of this across all of the people who use the pumps to include the school department. And everyone is supporting it.
Any questions from the council?
Just to clarify, this is money coming out of this year's budget, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it out of this year's budget.
So you get till June 30th.
Correct.
Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request to solicit bids for a fuel monitoring system for all vehicles utilizing town fuel, both gas and diesel, per agenda item H4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, Town Administrator, items and announcements.
We've all heard about the pump-out vote. A month or two ago, it was determined that there was someone in California who was willing to donate a pump-out boat and pay for its transportation here. It was decided that what we should do is have the boat inspected. We've had the boat inspected at a cost of $400, which we're paying, and you have the report in your packet of the condition of the boat. And you have a recommendation from the chair of the Harbor Commission. And you can, I'm sure you've read the condition of the boat. So what I'm looking for is direction from the council. Do we look to get that boat here or not?
That was pending the
inspection.
inspection.
Right, and then, my understanding, we were going to review the inspection and decide whether or not.
Yes, Mr. Hart.
Mr. President, I'm just here in case there are any questions. Mr. Vanier is not able to be here this evening because of family issues. He texted me to that effect. But he is the individual who spoke to the person who inspected the vessel and checked out the engines. The quote in the letter is exactly as the gentleman stated, because I ran that letter by Mr. Vanier before publishing it, obviously. We felt the boat was in exceptional condition, all things considered. It was a good asset. The engine tests came back positive, so that the end result is his recommendation, in essence, in terms of just basically tuning up the engines and addressing basic boat maintenance, which would be about the same as one would expect in any annual maintenance of a vessel. So there's no big surprises here. Our recommendation is get the asset here. We recognize that the Budget Committee has not funded the operation of this vessel. We understand that. But it's an asset that, once you get it here, then there's other opportunities for utilization of this vessel, other than just a pump-out vessel. As has been expressed, the possibility of utilizing it for firefighting exists. The fire chief, as a matter of fact, this evening shared with myself and the police chief a picture of a gentleman's boat who evidently sank out here at Fogland, and he ran up on the beach. This had struck me as I was going home one night when I was looking at a boat that was in Nanaquaka Pond. That struck me as it was sitting low. Geez, if we had that boat, the idea of using water from the bay to fight a fire, well, why not take that same pickup hose and put it in a boat that's sinking and pump it out? So it has multiple use opportunities for it. It has the potential possibility of being a vessel that could be utilized not only just by Tiverton, but by other communities in the area. So it's an asset. It's being delivered here for free by a local individual. And then we can figure out what to do with this asset. We are no strings attached to this. So it's an opportunity. That's the position of the commission.
Well, Mr. President, it was my understanding that we had agreed to take the boat. The real issue was, are we getting a pig in a poke? And let's make sure we get it inspected before we arrange for the delivery. But based on and I've never seen the boat, and I certainly wouldn't be qualified to make a judgment, but Mr. Venier, who has spoken to the inspector, indicates, and I'm quoting, that the boat is in exceptional condition based upon its storage and its previous use. I believe we've already made a decision. This confirms our understanding that it is a suitable boat, and we should simply follow through at this point and arrange for the delivery through the owner.
That is my understanding of our last action as well.
Yeah, it was just pending the inspection to see if it was worthy,
Right, so it wasn't a vote
taking.
to accept, it was
So, well, if
Yes,
it
it
didn't
was.
pass,
If
yeah.
it didn't pass.
If it didn't pass the inspection, then we wouldn't accept the gift, so
Right.
to
Correct.
speak. And again, I'm no boater, and I'm not an engineer. You lost me on the first line, a compression check. I had no idea what that was, so I have to take Mr. Venier's expertise. And like I said, we can get it here. Once it's here, it's our asset, and we can do with it as we will. So I don't know if we need further votes.
I just want to point out that in the inspection, there was a cylinder that was in question that they had. They weren't sure if it would work itself out or it had a leak in the cylinder.
It's got a low
To hold its pressure.
compression in
Yeah.
port 3.
Yeah.
It's not that low, but I mean, yeah, it is low.
I don't think it's going to any better as time goes on.
No.
Well, you don't know. We don't know until we take a look at it.
Right. But again,
You gotta
as I
start-
said, it becomes our asset, and once it's here, we can keep it, sell it, do whatever we want with it. So again, seeing that there is no major issue with the inspection, I feel that our vote stands that we accept delivery.
That's like a point that we probably would have to put some money into the boat just to get it operational.
Right.
Yeah, the point is his estimate is $3,000, which is what one would typically expect to get a vessel in seaworthy condition.
And that's parts and labor, Bruce?
That's parts and labor
And
according to
we,
the report. That's
we
his
do it,
estimate.
I say we, but typically
Yeah.
we have done a lot of, the harbor has done a lot of their own maintenance, so to speak.
Mhm.
Dave had done a lot of it himself.
The engine work he
So-
actually has done at Don's more
Right,
often than
right.
But these are 8-cylinder engines. They're talking about doing an oil change and oil filters, all of which,
Mhm.
candidly, I do on my own boat. If I
Right.
can do it, God only knows there are 1,000 other people that can do it.
I just have one comment. I do agree with previous comments by Mr. Odell that it certainly will be more than $3,000 to get this operational. I think there'll be more work to do on the engine with the issue with the compression. There's also, it's a freshwater boat. It probably needs some saltwater undercoat so that you can put it in salt water. So I think, I still stand by my statements before. I'm against this, and I will continue to be against this particular item. Thank you.
Yeah, but I believe our last vote was, once it passed inspection, we would accept delivery, so unless...
I mean, I would move that we accept the pump-out boat donation, whatever the language is, based on the recommendation of the Harbor and Coastal Waters Management Commission and the attached Wilson's Paradise Marine inspection that was completed on April 30th of this year.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Opposed? 2. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Notify them
Thanks,
to deliver the vote.
Thank you.
Okay. Scheduling a site walk, Tiverton Crossings, Jim.
When we had a joint meeting with the planning board, I believe, and Carpianato was here. Apparently, there was a site walk offered, and there are people interested in the site walk from the planning board, and I would assume the council, some of the councilors. So we need to schedule when that site walk would be.
Any particular dates?
Would this be a joint meeting, or what is this?
Well,
It's not really a meeting.
It would be a site walk, it's a meeting of the planning board.
Yeah.
Because it is
It'll be a
it'll be
workshop.
posted as one of their meetings.
Right.
If 4 or more of you decide to attend, we'll also post it as a council workshop, just to be safe. But it's technically a planning board meeting for the site walk.
Which is open, is an open
It's open
meeting
to the public as well,
Right.
yes. Right.
Any particular date good for members of the council?
I'm gonna be able to leave the day, yeah,
I think the choices they gave you were June 1st or June 8th, 2 Saturdays.
June 1st is the library's book fair? Book fair? Book fair.
Yeah.
Just an FYI. Either date, I'm having a hard time justifying going on a site walk, but, so I don't care which date it is.
So is it consensus to tell the planning board that
Pick a date.
either date?
Pick a date and notify us.
And then if you would let the clerk know if you think you might be going, just so that if...
She can post it.
She can post it, yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, council, announcements, comments, and questions. Councilor Gerlach.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to provide the council with a brief update on where things are at with DEM. Last week was a busy week in terms of meetings with them. I'd like to thank Conservation Commission member Tricia Hilton for joining me at a couple meetings last week. And just to make sure everyone is on the same page, we have secured a meeting with DEM Director Janet Coit for Wednesday morning, this Wednesday morning, May 15th. And Director Coit had asked that a small group from the town meet with a small group from DEM for some pre-meeting discussions ahead of the 15th, the meeting on the 15th, to lay out concerns and needs on both sides, and make sure that we could have as productive a session on the 15th as possible. So we met 2 days for a total of 4.5 hours last week. All in all, they were somewhat productive. The town continues to stress that our primary concern is on protecting the water quality of Stafford Pond as the town's only drinking water source for thousands of residents. Again, the discussion was productive. There was agreement on some issues, such as the risks that are posed by increased recreational activity, and some of the steps that could be taken to reduce or mitigate those. There continue to be some areas of disagreement and/or areas that frankly, the town would like to see DEM do more of. And so, all in all, productive discussions. I think we're heading into the meeting on the 15th on solid footing. And then based on that discussion, that would certainly help inform the continuation of the public hearing that is scheduled for the 28th.
Time of the meeting?
Wednesday morning's meeting is bright and early at 9 a.m. up in Providence.
Anything
Any
else from the
questions?
council? Okay, Councilor Ruda.
Hi, happy to report that Mr. Clement Rose is almost finished with the drainage at Pecasset School. I believe the last thing to complete when some of the ground around the drain has settled is to just put some asphalt around the drain and to seed where he had dug to lay the pipe. And also, he had worked very quickly in getting it ready before the rain that we recently had. And also happy to report there is no water collecting in the Pecasset parking lot anymore.
Good.
So no fishing tournaments there either.
Duly noted.
Mr. President, I have just one announcement. The Arts Council is inviting the public to a reception this Sunday, May 19th, from 2 to 4 at the Town Hall to show off the lovely watercolors that are done by our Senior Citizen Center class. They've done an excellent job. Please join us on please join us on Sunday from 2 to 4. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just had just another question. Frankly, it's a question on whether or not there's any interest, or we should discuss further this whole notion of joining this lawsuit here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something I was going to actually place on our next agenda.
Oh, great. All right. There you go.
And, I just want to talk about, I had the opportunity over the last few days to go to 3 things that were put on by the high school and/or seniors. And I just want to tell you how proud I was as a Tivertonian to go. One was the presentation of Little Women, which was put on in Little Compton at their theater, and it was directed by a high school senior from Tiverton. It was her class project. And I'll tell you, it was a first-rate production. It really was great. The second was a charity walk that was held at the high school. And again, that was another senior project. Again, it was just amazing to see these young people putting this much effort, into something that actually benefits and provides entertainment or funds for charities. And the last was I had the opportunity to go to the musical presentation on Friday of the high school singers, whatever they call themselves. They did a Broadway review. And I have to tell you, anybody who doesn't go to these things is really missing out. I'm not really a big theater buff, but I went, and I'll tell you, I was thoroughly entertained, and it's great to see the hard work that these kids put in. So I want anybody who hears of anything that's going on in the high schools, go. You will be absolutely amazed at the talent we have in this town. I just wanted everybody to know that. Okay, anything else? Okay. Town solicitor, items and announcements.
Thank you. First item, K1, is just for your information, Hoffman Engineering. That's an invoice from them regarding some of the engineering work that they've done.
This is our share. Some of it is, some of Mr. Hoffman's bills are paid for by the residents for the private cleanup stuff. The payment of this comes from the settlement funds from Southern Union Gas Company. And just wanted you to be aware of it. Still going on, still closing in on it. K2 is amendment to the rules and regulations for use of public buildings by the public. And this was requested by the clerk. There are two concerns. One is just a general concern about the use of the buildings, that the public buildings are really not meant to be used for regular use of businesses or people doing businesses, even if they're under the auspices of educational institutions. If there's a college or university wants to have a concert or a lecture, that's what it's for. But it's really not designed for regular classes where tuition's being charged and so forth, but they're just using the facilities. So that's the first set of changes, which is made on the first page to A1. The second set of changes on the second page is a little more specific to Judson Street Community Center, and two sub-elements there. One is the continued deterioration of the building. It's getting older, it's getting worse, the bathrooms are getting worse, and that this would restrict it in general to not more than groups of 10 people. And the second part of it is that property shares parking with the church. So we should not be renting it out to large groups, I said more than 5, on a Sunday when church services are being held. It's Sunday afternoon, fine, but we shouldn't be conflicting deliberately with the sharing use of the parking lot. So those are the proposed two changes. This is a policy rather than an ordinance, so it does not need to be further advertised or have a hearing unless you so desire. Is there anything you want to add?
This actually has come about because one of the people that utilize the school is to put a driver's education class there. Now, they've been doing it for over a year, but for the last 2 months, I haven't reissued the permission because of seeing the condition that the building is in, and there are 27 youths there to do that driver's ed. I think for the liability portion, it's the council's decision. But I did suggest that if she wanted to come and speak with the council tonight, she has had several conversations with Mr. Gonzo as well, but, bottom line is I'm going to have to sign for that permission. We're either going to have to, do something to curtail this, and unfortunately, it is difficult. It is a nonprofit organization, even though they pay to be there, and it's under the CCRI Community College. So I just have a problem with it. If the council wants to continue it the way it is, that's fine, and Mr. Gonzo can always sign for it, but I don't think it's something I could sign for.
Is there another location?
She's tried. I do feel bad for her. I've tried to work with her. In fact, for the last few times that she did this, I did try to, forewarn her that this isn't going to be able to continue. The classes actually take place on Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 4, 2 weekends in a row, and then the following Saturday from 9 to 2. So it's in the weekends. We don't have staff there on the weekends.
Which
and
conflicts with the church.
It does. Of course, these students don't have their licenses yet, so they're not, But even so, to put 27 youth in there, those decks need work, those bathrooms are in tough shape, and I don't know how one person is controlling 27 kids there. I think it's a liability, but it's your decision.
Who else does this impact?
It's mostly boards, the town boards and commissions meet there. Recreation, I believe, meets there. A lot of our commissions have gone to the senior center. But the only other outside one that I could think of was Enact, and that isn't as big a group that goes. And it's a shorter time. It's one meeting maybe every couple of months for, 2 hours. It's not an all-day. And Placing Paws meets there, I think, on a monthly basis, and there's probably 4 people.
But
You know,
that wouldn't impact either.
I don't think that would be as big an impact as having a large group in there. So we thought we should at least bring it to the council and let the council determine, if you want to change the policy or you don't.
Jim?
The building is deteriorating, we all know that, okay? We don't have the funds to repair it. And at any given time, there are shingles all over the lawn. So the roof does have some leaks. It's not a pretty building. It's functional at this point, and that's why we're trying to limit its use, okay, and as Nancy's indicated, if you have 27 children in there, all day long, you give them a break and now and then, and they tour the building, I guess. I'm not sure if you can contain them, but we should limit its use due to liability, or until we can find out what we're going to do with it. Sell it? Spend money on it? What are we going to do? So I can concur with Nancy that we should limit the use of it to, our
Small
own,
groups.
our own committees, commissions, boards, and they're usually a lot smaller. And they meet nights during the week, and there's no real conflict with, using the church parking lot. So I would recommend that this policy be adopted.
Okay. Anything else from the council?
Just a question on the classes. Are there any classes that this would impact that are conducted at the senior center?
I'm not suggesting they go to the senior center. I'm not even sure they know it.
No, this is not allowing any individual to operate. I'm not sure if the teacher of the watercolor class gets a fee from her students. So that's my only concern.
They do watercolor classes. The seniors there while they're at it.
But they don't rent the space. They bring them in as a service, right?
Right, and I think she told us to.
But that's an official, I hear the question about use of the senior center. I think the idea is that's an official action of the senior center director of that function there. It's kind of like we have more than 20 people here at the council meetings, but it's the council meetings as opposed to someone coming and saying, I'd like to rent town hall, every Wednesday night for a church service, at which I expect 50 people to show up type thing.
That's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure that we don't run into any problems with any potential classes at the senior center.
No, I don't think this would.
There's a small
Right.
service fee.
I don't think, no, it's not so much the fee, it's whether it's the private or that, and since that's sponsored by the town, the center itself, that's part of its function, so.
And one other thing, these classes used to be held, I believe, at the high school for years and years and years. And for some reason, they stopped using the high school, came back, but I believe she is attempting again to get back into the high school. It's not, we don't have anything against the drive-to school, it's just when you look at the building, and we've been up there a few times lately,
It's in bad shape.
Yeah.
it's in bad shape for that size group.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Okay. Anything else from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
It does say this shall include the Tiverton School Department. Has this been run by the school committee?
Means that they can be in there.
The only thing was just specifically adding, since we were referring to educational institutions below, I wanted to make clear that in the first priority included the school department. It's not that a restriction on them, it's making it clear that their priority, their priority is not the same as CCRI or UMass or something like that. They get a first priority. The others get third priority.
just want to make sure that they're in the loop, so that they're aware of what is being discussed here. They haven't seen it, I just want to make sure that they know what this is about.
Well, we're just including them
Right.
as, as like we were a
Right.
board or commission.
Right, this doesn't change anything. I mean, first of all, they don't use our buildings very often anyway, but in fact, it was making clear that they were ones with the first priority to use it, so.
I think Joe's point is to make sure that they are aware that they know that.
Mrs. Black does now.
I think she understands.
So Sally, if you guys want to hold your next meeting at the community center.
You can.
You can.
But don't be any more than 10 people, and don't bring all your cars. Okay, any further
There's
discussion?
a comment for communication, not use.
Okay, anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the amendment to policy for use of the facilities in town buildings per the attached agenda item K2.
Second.
We have motion and second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, anything else, Mr.?
That's all I have under K.
Okay. Town clerk.
If I could at some point,
Oh,
after town clerk, go back. We were so tied up with the vote, I forgot announcements.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jim. Give your announcements first. We'll save Madam Clerk for last.
Save the best for last. We've got an estimate of 340 residents that will be qualifying for pay-as-you-throw free bags this year.
340?
340. It's an estimate at this point. The next item is we will begin paving streets tomorrow. We're going to be paving Summit Avenue, and we're going to be doing Lewis, Oakland, Chase, and then after the first of the year, we're going to do Allen, Hope, and Valley.
First of the year.
Next item, because there's going to be, well,
First of the year, you mean?
first of the fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We'll be paving it.
Yeah, January's a little tough.
I don't go by calendar years anymore.
Jim, will that just come in some sort of report or something like that? I tried to write down all those street names.
I can give it to you, or I can repeat
I
them.
would like it too.
Yeah, just send out a notice to the
Just,
council.
yeah.
Yeah,
tell us
just,
it's paved.
Okay.
Well, just, what are the ones for tomorrow? Starting tomorrow is
It's
Summit.
going to be Summit, and then we're going to move over to behind Secaunet,
Bay Manor.
Bay Manor. And then we'll be moving up to North Tiverton. The next item is that there is going to be a walkathon. It's a library fund. It's going to be held at the high school track. It's a 5K. There are some applications in the back for anyone who wants to sign up. The cost is $20 for an individual and $10 for a family. It's at the high school track again. It's a 5K. It'll be 8 a.m. Saturday, June 1st.
Doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right? You're right. It doesn't sound right. I questioned the same thing. To me,
It's a discount
backwards.
for,
To me- No, it's not. It's not the other way.
Well, yeah, they're telling us it is.
No, it isn't.
Oh,
I just said it sounded,
It sounds backwards.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's $20 for an individual and $10 for a
So
family.
everybody become a family.
So, didn't make any sense to me, but, so it's probably going to be around 12 times around the high school track.
And when is that?
It's going to be June 1st, which is a Saturday, 8 a.m.
maybe
Gotta
we
get
want to
up early
revisit
for
the
it.
sidewalk.
So,
Maybe we want to revisit
We can go right from there
the
to the
Sousa Road
sidewalk.
site visit. That might be that morning as well.
A lot
Right.
of walking.
No, I prefer to do the site visit, so
That's your warm-up for the track.
Just a note, we have collected so far this year $239,000 in late fees. You may recall that the last council waived late fees under certain circumstances. The waived fee was only $5,700. And for the new members, it was if you paid your taxes on time for 5 years, you could request a waiver of the late fee. So there were some people that took advantage of that. Recycling. We got our report for the month of April. This April, we recycled 155 tons. Last April, we recycled 146 tons. And it seems to be increasing for the most part, not every month, but for the most part. Hopefully, Rhode Island Recovery will declare a dividend of some kind this year, and we'll get some more funding. That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Okay, it's just an announcement again about the Financial Town referendum on Tuesday, May 21st. There'll be 3 polling locations, one at the VFW for the northern section of town, District 3301, 02, and 04. And then on the east section will be Country View Estates. And on the southern area of town will be Amicable Church. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on that day, and we're going to be having early voting starting here at the Town Hall on Thursday, May 16th, Friday, May 17th, and Saturday, May 18th. The time is from 8 to 8 on the 16th and 17th, and on Saturday it'll be 8 till 4. And just to remember, a reminder, you do need to have identification to be able to vote.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert.
I move that we go into a closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Chapter 42, 46, 5A6, Ray Prospective Business or Industrial Park.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor?
And stay in closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Chapter 42, 46, 5A2, Ray